The marketplace was loud, filled with the shouts of traders and the cries of slaves. The air smelled of smoke, sweat, and fear. In the middle of the square, under a bright light, stood a creature unlike any the crowd had ever seen. She was not just tall, she was massive. Her body towered above the others, her shoulders wide, her muscles strong, her skin marked with strange scars. Her eyes, glowing faintly in the light, looked down at the crowd with no hope, only silence. Heavy chains bound her arms and legs, each chain thick enough to hold a beast. The traders around her laughed cruelly. "She is too big," one shouted. "Too big to breed, too big to serve." Another added, "She eats more than she is worth." "Useless." The crowd jeered, some throwing scraps of food at her feet. She did not react. She had learned long ago that showing emotion only brought more pain. The auction master raised his hands to silence the crowd. He was a thin man with sharp eyes and a cruel smile. "Listen, all of you," he called out. "This one is no good for labor, no good for pleasure. What use is a giant female who cannot produce? But she is big enough for meat." Laughter broke out in the crowd, harsh and loud. Some cheered. Others began to shout prices not to buy her as a worker or slave, but to buy her as food. The giant woman lowered her head. Her long hair fell across her face, hiding her eyes. She had known many fates in her life, chains, beatings, hunger, but never had she been so worthless that they saw her as nothing more than flesh for their tables. The auction master lifted his knife high, pointing at her chest. "Cut her down. We will sell her piece by piece. The galaxy will pay well for fresh, giant meat." The crowd roared. Some pushed forward, hungry to see her carved apart. The chains rattled as she tried to step back, but there was no escape. Then, suddenly, a voice cut through the noise. "I will buy her." The words were calm but strong. The entire crowd turned. From the shadows at the edge of the market, a man stepped forward. He was human, something rare in this part of the galaxy. His clothes were plain, his face hidden by a hood, but his eyes were sharp and steady, glowing with quiet fire. The auction master blinked, surprised. "You, a human?" he laughed. "Do you have any idea what you are buying? She is worthless." The man did not flinch. "I said I will buy her. Name the price." The auction master sneered. "She is meat, nothing more. Pay the butcher's fee, and she is yours." The human pulled out a small pouch of credits and tossed it at the master's feet. The crowd gasped. That much money could buy 10 healthy slaves, maybe even a ship. The master's eyes widened, greed replacing his laughter. "She is yours," he said quickly, kicking the pouch into his pocket. "Take the beast and go." The chains were unlocked with loud clicks. The giant woman stared at the human, her eyes filled with confusion. No one had ever paid for her freedom, not like this. The man looked up at her, his face still hidden in shadow. His voice was low, but she heard every word. "You are not meat. You are mine now." The crowd murmured uneasy. Some shouted in anger. "Why waste money on her? She should have been cut down." The human is mad. But the man ignored them. He took the chain still wrapped around her wrist and pulled gently, guiding her out of the circle. She followed, her steps heavy, the ground shaking under her weight. As they walked away, the giant woman looked back once. The crowd was still shouting, but their voices grew weaker with every step. For the first time in her life, she was not being sold as an object to be used or destroyed. She had been claimed. Her heart beat faster, though she did not know why. She did not trust this human. Yet something in his eyes told her he was not like the others. Still, one question burned in her mind. Why? Why would a human spend so much to save her life? What did he want from her? That night, when they left Market and the noise of the crowd faded into silence. The giant woman heard the human whisper to himself. His words were quiet, almost too soft for her to hear. Ataye, but they chilled her blood. They must never find out what she really is. The night was silent, broken only by the sound of footsteps on old stone streets. The giant woman walked slowly, behind the human who had bought her. Her chains were still wrapped around her wrists, but now they hung loose. For the first time, she was not dragged, not beaten, not forced forward. The human moved with purpose, his hood low over his face. The market behind them was gone, swallowed by the shadows. Ahead, the streets narrowed, lit only by weak lanterns. Strange eyes watched them from broken doorways, but none dared to come close. Something about the human kept them away. The giant woman studied him. His steps were steady, his back straight. He did not look like a rich master. His clothes were worn, patched in places, and his boots carried the dust of many worlds. He was no ordinary buyer. Finally, they reached a small building at the edge of the city. The door creaked as he pushed it open. Inside, it was quiet and dim, with only a single lamp glowing. The air smelled of old wood and metal oil. He turned. To her, at last. For the first time, she saw his face clearly. His skin was pale, his jaw strong, his eyes dark but sharp like blades. "Sit," he said simply, pointing to the floor. She obeyed. Her massive frame made the room feel smaller, as if her presence alone could crush the walls. The human placed food in front of her: bread, fruit, and water. Simple things, yet to her they were treasures. She hesitated, staring at the food. Was it a trick? In her past, food was always tied to pain. "Eat," he ordered, softer this time. Her hunger took over. She tore into the bread, devoured the fruit, drank the water until the cup was empty. For the first time in years, her stomach was full. The human watched quietly. His expression did not change, but his eyes softened for a moment, almost like pity. When she finished, she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand and looked at him. Her voice, deep and low from years of silence, finally spoke. "Why?" The human tilted his head. "Why? Why? By me?" she asked. "Why not let them cut me down?" For a long time, he did not answer. The lamp flickered, shadows moving across his face. Then, at last, he said, "Because you are not what they think you are." Her heart thudded in her chest. Not what they think. She wanted to ask more, but his eyes told her to stay quiet. He stood and walked to the window. Patrol lights scanned the streets. He pulled the curtain closed. "They believe you are useless," he said. "They believe your size makes you weak. Too large for labor, too strange for pleasure, too costly to keep alive. But I know the truth. Your size hides something greater." Her eyes narrowed. "What truth?" He turned back to her, his face serious. "You are more than flesh. Inside you lies power. Power even you do not understand." Her breath caught. For a moment, her memory stirred flashes of fire, broken skies, voices screaming her name. But the visions vanished before she could grasp them. The human stepped closer. "I saved you because they cannot know. If they knew what you were, every hunter, every empire, every warlord would come for you. And they would not stop until you were dead." Her chains rattled as she shifted. "Then why tell me this? Why not use me for yourself?" His expression hardened. "Because I am not like them." He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I did not buy you to use. I bought you to protect you." Silence filled the room. The giant woman stared at him, searching for lies in his eyes, but found none. Still, doubt twisted inside her. Why would a human risk so much for her? That night, he let her rest on a mat by the wall. For the first time, no guards, no whips, no cages, just silence. She lay awake, her massive form curled in the small room. She could not sleep. In the darkness, she heard him whisper. His words were not meant for her, but her sharp ears caught every sound. They must never find out what she really is, or she will destroy us all. Her eyes widened. She was not sure if his voice carried fear or warning. Either way, his secret was now hers too. The night grew colder. Outside, the city slept. But inside that small room, two fates were tied together, one human with secrets too heavy to carry, and one giant woman whose true nature was still locked. Inside her, and somewhere deep within her, something stirred. Something waiting to be awakened. The giant woman dreamed of fire. In her sleep, she saw burning skies, ships breaking apart in the void, and voices screaming her name. 1,000 hands reached for her, begging for mercy, but she could give none. Then the dream shattered, and she woke with a cry that shook the walls. The human was already awake, sitting in the corner with his back against the wall. His eyes were sharp in the dim light. "You saw it again, didn't you?" he asked quietly. Her chest rose and fell like thunder. Sweat rolled down her skin, and the mat beneath her creaked under her weight. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Every night, I see death. Ships burning. I see." Me? The human stood slowly. He walked to the small table and opened a metal box. Inside lay strange tools and objects, things she did not know. He lifted one, a stone that glowed faintly with blue light, pulsing like a heartbeat. "This is why," he said. "This is what you carry inside." Her eyes fixed on the stone. It seemed to call to her. Without thinking, her hand rose, huge fingers trembling as they reached for it. "Careful," the human warned, but she touched it anyway. The moment her skin met the stone, the ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the lamp flickered. The air grew heavy, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Her eyes widened. Light spilled from her fingertips, flowing into the stone, and the stone glowed brighter. The giant woman gasped, pulling her hand away, but the stone continued to pulse. "What? What is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. The human looked at her with something between awe and fear. "It is a key," he said, "and you are the lock." Her chains rattled as she shifted nervously. "I don't understand." He placed the stone back into the box and shut it tight. "Your body is massive because it was built to hold something. Greater energy, power, life itself. Long ago, there were whispers of a race like you. Beings so large, so strong, they could carry the weight of stars. The galaxy feared them. And then they vanished." Her heart pounded. "Are you saying I am one of them?" He did not answer right away. Instead, he lit another lamp and spread a set of worn maps across the table. Symbols, planets, and war routes marked the pages. Some believed your kind were destroyed. Others believed they went into hiding. But when I saw you in that market, chained and broken, I knew. You were not meat. You were not useless. You were the last of them. She rose to her feet, towering over him. "If this is true, then why do I remember nothing? Why am I a slave? Why was I about to be cut apart like an animal?" His jaw tightened. "Because the galaxy hates what? It fears, and nothing is feared more than a weapon it cannot control." The word cut through her like a blade weapon. Her memories stirred again. Screams. Fire. Her own hands tearing through steel as if it were paper. She staggered back, clutching her head. "No, I am not a weapon. I am not." The human stepped forward, placing a steady hand against her arm. His touch was small compared to her massive frame, But his voice carried strength. "You are not a weapon. Not if you choose not to be." Her breathing slowed, but her eyes still burned with confusion and fear. That night, he began to train her. Not with whips or chains, but with patience. He showed her the symbols carved into the maps, the patterns of stars, the ancient words that carried power. He placed the glowing stone in front of her again and again, teaching her to touch it without breaking the world around them. At first, she failed. The ground shook, walls cracked, and once the lamp shattered from the force of her energy. She wept in frustration, but the human never raised his hand against her. He simply said, "Again." Slowly, her control grew. The stone glowed, but the room stayed whole. The chains on her wrists rattled less each time, and for the first time, she felt something inside her shift. Not rage, not despair, but strength. Yet, with every step forward, a shadow grew in her heart. If she truly carried this power, then what had she done before? Were the burning skies and broken ships in her dreams memories? One night, when the training was over and the human slept, she stared at the stone on the table. It pulsed gently, like it was waiting for her. She reached for it again, her hand shaking. The moment she touched it, visions slammed into her mind. She saw herself standing on a battlefield, her body glowing, her roar breaking armies. She saw ships crumble under her fists. She saw thousands fall before her. Her own voice echoed in her skull. "You are the storm. You are the end." She ripped her hand away, gasping. The room was silent, but her chest heaved like she had run for miles. She looked at the human, still asleep against the wall, and whispered to herself, "What am I?" The city slept under a cold sky, but in the shadows. Danger was already moving, far from the quiet room where the giant woman and the human hid. Whispers spread through the underworld. Word of the auction had escaped. Someone had paid too much for a useless giant. Someone had bought her instead of cutting her down. To most, it meant nothing. But to a few, it meant everything. The hunters had heard. Mercenaries with steel eyes. Warlords with empty hearts. Traitors who dealt in flesh and blood. They all knew the stories of a race too large, too strong, too dangerous to exist. And if even one survived, she was worth more than armies. That night, as the human studied maps by the dim lamp, he felt the change in the air. His hand went to the weapon at his side, though he did not move. His instincts screamed, "They have found us." The giant woman sat across the room, her eyes half closed in restless thought. Since touching the glowing stone, her mind was filled with storms she did not understand. She saw herself in visions of fire, and she feared them. But tonight, her unease was not only in dreams. Her body tensed, her ears catching faint sounds. "Beyond the walls, someone is outside," she said quietly. The human's eyes narrowed. He reached for a small device, pressing it to the wall. A faint hum echoed, showing red dots moving around the building. "Hunters," he muttered. Too soon, the woman rose to her feet. The floor creaked under her massive form. Chains still hung from her wrists, though loose now. More memory than prison. Her eyes burned faintly in the dim light. "What do they want?" she asked. The human loaded his weapon, his voice low and steady. "You." The door burst open before she could answer. 3 figures stormed inside, armored and masked. Their weapons glowed with deadly energy. The human fired first, his shot cracking through the room. 1 hunter fell, but 2 more pushed forward. The giant woman reacted without thought. Her massive arm swung, striking one across the chest. Armor shattered like glass. The man flew across the room, hitting the wall, so hard it cracked. The last hunter hesitated, his mask reflecting her glowing eyes. For a heartbeat, fear flickered in his stance. Then he snarled and lunged. but she caught his weapon in her hand. The blade burned against her palm, yet she did not release it. Instead, light spilled from the wound. The blade hissed, then cracked. Apart in her grip, the hunter screamed, "She is one of them." His words echoed in the room, heavier than gunfire. The human's jaw tightened. He shot the man through the chest before he could speak again. Silence fell, broken only by the woman's heavy breathing. The bodies smoked on the floor. The lamp flickered, casting long shadows. The giant woman looked at her hands, still glowing faintly from the energy. Her voice shook. What did he mean? One of them? The human's eyes met hers. He had hidden the truth, but the world was forcing it out. It means the galaxy will come for you. Every hunter. Every empire. Every beast that smells fear. They will not stop. Her chest tightened. And if they catch me... He did not answer at first. Then, with quiet finality, he said, "They will not catch you. Not while I live." But even as he spoke, alarms began to howl across the city. The attack had been loud, too loud. Others would have heard. More would come. The human grabbed the glowing stone and shoved it into a metal case. "We move now." They left the room, slipping into the maze of dark streets. The night air was sharp, filled with smoke and whispers. Behind them, shadows gathered more hunters. More eyes. The giant woman walked close behind the human, her massive steps echoing softly. But her mind was far from calm. The hunter's scream replayed in her ears. "She is one of them," as they reached the edge of the city. Ships roared overhead. Searchlights cut through the night, scanning the streets. The human pulled her into an alley, pressing her against the wall. "Stay quiet," he hissed. The light passed, but her heart thundered. She felt the power inside her stir, the same energy that shattered weapons and shook the ground. It was alive, waiting to be unleashed. She whispered, almost to herself, "If I am one of them, what am I?" The human's hand tightened on her arm. "You are mine. That is enough." But his voice carried a shadow, a fear he did not speak aloud, because deep down he knew the truth. Her power was waking, and the hunters had only just begun. And in the darkness above, another ship turned, its nose toward them. Its captain whispered to his crew, "Mark her. She is worth more than planets." The hunt had begun. The forest was silent except for their footsteps. They had fled the city before dawn, leaving smoke and alarms behind them. Now the giant woman walked through the shadows of towering trees, her chains clinking softly with every step. The human moved ahead of her, steady, careful, his eyes scanning every path. The farther they went, the more questions burned in her mind. The hunters had called her one of them. She still felt the heat of their weapons, the fear in their voices. And she remembered the light spilling from her hands, a light no normal creature carried. Finally, she stopped. Her voice was low, but unshakable. "No more secrets. Tell me what I am." Akimon froze. His shoulders tensed, as if he had been waiting for this moment. Slowly, he turned to face her. His face was tired, his eyes heavy with truth he no longer wished to hide. "You are not a slave," he said quietly. "You are not meat, or a mistake, or something too large to breed. You are the last of a race, thought extinct." Her breath caught, extinct. He nodded. "Long ago, before this galaxy was carved into empires, there were beings like you, colossal, powerful, born not to serve, but to hold the weight of energy that no machine could contain. You were living vessels of power-living weapons." The word struck her again. Weapon. She staggered back, her chains rattling. I see it in my dreams. Fire, war, destruction. Did my people kill?" The human's jaw tightened. His silence was louder than any answer. Her voice cracked. "Tell me, X," he said at last. His voice was sharp, cutting the silence like a blade. "Your kind broke armies. They tore fleets apart. Entire planets fell to your strength. The galaxy feared you, and in time, they hunted you. They burned your world until there was nothing left. Nothing but ashes." Her knees weakened. She sank against a tree, her massive form making the trunk shudder. Memories flickered in her mind, shouts in a language she almost remembered. Blood running across stone, her own voice roaring like thunder. "Then why am I alive?" she whispered. The human stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. "Because someone hid you. I don't know who. I don't know why. They erased your memory and left you to the slavers. Maybe to keep you safe, maybe to keep you weak. But you survived. And now you are all that remains." The giant woman's eyes burned with tears she did not understand. All her life she had been worthless, chained, mocked. Yet here she was, told she was the last of something mighty, something feared. "Why save me?" she asked. "Why risk your life for me?" The human's gaze did not waver. "Because the galaxy will not stop hunting you. And if they catch you, they will use you. They will chain you again, not as a slave, but as a weapon against every world. I cannot allow that." She stared at him, trying to read his heart. His words were strong, but there was something deeper in his voice, fear. Yes, but also resolve. He did not see her as meat, did not see her as a beast. He saw her as something worth fighting for. But her own fear cut deeper. "If I truly carry this power," she said, her voice shaking, "what if I destroy everything? What if I cannot control it?" The human reached into his pack and pulled out the glowing stone. He held it out to her, the faint blue light pulsing between them. "This is your test," he said. "The galaxy calls you a weapon, but only you can decide what you are. Power is nothing without choice." Her hand hovered over the stone, trembling. When her fingers touched it, the light flared. Visions slammed into her mind, again armies screaming, ships breaking apart, stars burning. She cried out, pulling back. The stone fell, rolling into the dirt. She shook her head violently. "No. I don't want this. I don't want to be a weapon." The human picked up the stone and placed it back in the case. His voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. "Then don't be. You are not the past. You are not your kind's mistakes. You are you." Her eyes met his, filled with pain and fear. For the first time, she realized her chains were not only on her wrist, they were inside her heart. Chains of memory, chains of shame. She stood taller than the trees, her shadow swallowing him whole. "If I am the last of them," she said, "then I will not be their weapon. I will not be their fear. I will be something else." The human nodded once, firmly. "Then we must keep moving, because now they know you live, and they will come, stronger than before." Far above, hidden by clouds, ships cut silently through the sky. Their captains smiled, their scanners locked on her faint energy. One whispered into his come, "She is awake. Tell the empires. Tell them the last of the giants lives." The desert stretched endless under the burning sun. For days, the giant, woman, and the human had traveled, leaving forests and cities far behind. The land was dry, cracked, lifeless. Each step she took shook the dust into the air, but she never slowed. The human walked ahead, silent, his hood pulled low. The weight of truth still crushed her chest. She was the last of a race feared as weapons. The hunters wanted her alive. The empires would kill to control her. And yet, only one question burned in her mind. Why did he save me? At night, when the fire crackled low and the stars shone above, she watched him, He studied maps, adjusted strange devices, and always kept the glowing stone near. He spoke little. But when he did, his voice was steady, calm, almost too calm. One night, while he slept, she heard it. A faint crackle of static. A voice. She turned her head and saw the small device lying near his pack, its screen flickering with light. Slowly, she moved closer. Her massive hands shook as she picked it up carefully, afraid of breaking it. A voice hissed through. The static, "Is she with you?" Then came another voice. His voice. "The humans?" "Yes," he whispered. The giant woman froze. Her heart thundered. She listened harder, every word cutting deeper. "Good," the other voice said. "Bring her to the old station. You'll be paid more than you can imagine." Her breath caught. She nearly dropped the device. Her ears rang. The human shifted in his sleep, and she set the down quickly. She lay back on the sand, staring at the stars, but her chest burned with betrayal. So this was his plan. He did not save me out of kindness. He saved me to sell me the next day. She walked farther behind him, her eyes cold, her steps heavy. Every time he looked back, she turned her face away. The desert stretched endless, but her mind felt even more empty. That night, when the fire burned low again, she could not hold her words. "You lied to me," she said, her voice like thunder. The human looked up, confused. "What?" She stood over him, chains rattling, her eyes glowing faintly in the firelight. "You said you bought me to protect me. You said I was not meat, not a weapon. But I heard you. I heard your voice on the come. You plan to sell me?" The human's face darkened. He rose to his feet slowly, his hands open at his sides. "You don't understand." Her roar cut him off. "Do not speak. I trusted you. For the first time, I trusted someone. And it was all a lie." Her massive fists clenched, the ground cracking beneath her feet. The fire bent toward her as if pulled by her rage. The human's eyes widened, not in fear for himself, but in fear of what she was becoming. "You don't know what you heard," he said sharply. "You don't know the full truth." But she turned away. Her heart was broken, her chest burning with anger and sorrow. She could not stay. She could not follow him any longer. When the fire died, she walked into the desert, leaving him behind. The night was cold, but her anger kept her warm. She walked until the stars blurred in her vision, until her legs ached. She wanted to forget him, forget his voice, forget the pain. But she did not walk alone. Shadows moved in the sand. Figures rose from the dunes, hunters, armored and silent. Their eyes glowed red, their weapons ready. They had been waiting for her. Too late, she realized the truth. The human's voice on the come. It had not been a promise. It had been a trap. Someone had copied his voice, twisted it, sent it to lure her away. And she had fallen for it. The hunters closed in. Chains rattled in their hands, sharper and stronger than any she had worn before. She roared and struck the ground, sand exploding in every direction. One hunter flew back, but 10 more took his place. Blades cut her arms, nets tangled her legs. 4. All her strength, the chains pulled tight. The light inside her flared, but pain and confusion dulled her control. She fell to her knees, the hunters shouting in triumph. And as the last chain locked around her neck, she heard a voice call out from the dunes, "Let her go." The human. He charged forward, his weapon blazing, cutting down hunters left and right. His voice was fierce, not the calm whisper she had known. It was the voice of a man willing to die. Her eyes widened. If he was here, fighting for her, then the calm voice had never been him. Her chest filled with shame. Her anger had blinded her, and now chained once more. She was too weak to break free. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was the human, bloodied and fighting against impossible odds, and in her fading mind, one question burned. The night burned with fire. Chains rattled as the giant woman fell to her knees, dragged down by the hunters. Their ships circled above, their searchlights cutting through the desert. The ground was alive with shouting, weapons glowing, and the cruel laughter of men who believed they had won. But the human did not stop. He fought through the sandstorm of blades and smoke, blood staining his arm. Every step was agony, yet he moved like a storm, his weapon blazing, his eyes filled with rage. "Let her go," he roared, his voice carrying across the battlefield. The hunters only laughed. "She is ours now," their leaders spat. "The galaxy. We'll pay anything for her. She is not a woman. She is a weapon." The words pierced her like knives. She pulled against her chains, her massive body shaking with effort, but the nets tightened. Her power stirred inside her, wild and angry, but fear choked it. She had betrayed him, doubted him, left him, and now he was bleeding for her. The human cut down another hunter, but more swarmed him. He fell to one knee, blood dripping into the sand. His weapon clattered from his hand. "No," she cried, her voice shaking the desert. The hunters tightened the chains, trying to silence her. But her chest burned, brighter than ever before. Her vision filled with light, not of dreams this time, but of truth. She saw the faces of her people giants, like her, proud and strong. She saw the fire of their destruction, the screams of their end. And she heard their voices, whispering in her mind, "You are the last. You are the vessel. Rise." Something broke inside her. Or perhaps something was finally set free. The ground cracked beneath her knees. Light spilled from her eyes, her scars, her very skin. The hunters stepped back in terror as the chains glowed red. Melting against her body, with one roar, she stood, snapping the last chain like paper. The desert shook, waves of energy blasting out in all directions. Hunters were thrown into the air, ships in the sky trembled. Sand turned to glass under her feet. The human shielded his eyes, his body weak, but he did not run. He looked at her towering, glowing, unstoppably and whispered, "I knew it." The hunters screamed. "She cannot be controlled." Their leader raised his weapon, but before he could fire, her hand closed around him. His armor cracked under her grip, and for the first time, his eyes showed fear. "You called me a weapon," she said, her voice like thunder. "But I am not yours to command." She threw him into the sand, his body broken. The others fled, ships rising into the sky, engines screaming. None dared to stay. Silence fell. The desert glowed faintly where her power had touched it. Her breath came heavy, but her chains were gone, her body free. Slowly, she turned. The human lay on the ground, his face pale, his wounds deep. She knelt beside him, her massive hand hovering, afraid to break him with a touch. "I thought you betrayed me," she whispered. "I was wrong." He coughed, his eyes meeting hers. Even now, weak and bleeding, he smiled faintly. "I told you, you are not meat, not a weapon. You are mine." Her chest tightened. His words were not chains, not ownership. They were a vow, a bond. She lowered her hand carefully, lifting him with more gentleness than her size should allow. Above them, the stars burned bright. Ships would come again. Empires would send more hunters. The galaxy now knew the truth. The last of the giants lived. But she was no longer afraid. She looked down at the human in her arms and whispered, "Then let them come. I will fight them all." His eyes closed, not from death, but from trust. He rested in her hold, and for the first time, she felt not like a weapon, but like something greater. The wind howled across the desert, carrying the ashes of battle. And somewhere, far above, unseen eyes watched, recording, waiting. The galaxy trembled with the news the last of the giants had awakened. And she was claimed by a human.